They say your enemy is the person who challenges you the most, the one who pushes your buttons, knows exactly how to get under your skin, and makes your blood boil with just a glance. For 2 years, that's exactly what Ethan Morrison was to me, my rival, my competitor, my complete opposite in every way that mattered. But they never tell you what happens when that enemy becomes the only person who truly sees you, when the fire between you isn't just anger, but something far more dangerous, when one unexpected moment shatters everything you thought you knew about hate and about love. This is the story of how the man I was meant to destroy became the man who saved me, how a single kiss transformed my entire world, and how sometimes the person standing on the opposite side isn't your enemy at all, they're your destiny waiting to be discovered. My name is Daniel Cross, and this is my truth. The fluorescent lights of Sterling and Hayes architecture hummed above my desk as I refined the final details of my design proposal. 3 months of sleepless nights, countless revisions, and more coffee than any human should consume had led to this moment. The Harrison Project, a sustainable community center that would revitalize downtown Seattle, represented everything I'd worked toward since graduating top of my class from Berkeley. It was also the project that would finally prove I belonged here. Still here, Cross. I didn't need to look up to know who stood in my doorway. Ethan Morrison's voice had a distinctive quality, smooth, confident, with an undertone that always sounded vaguely amused, as if everything in life was a private joke only he understood. Some of us actually work for our success, Morrison, I replied, keeping my eyes on my screen. We don't all coast by on charm and connections. I heard him step into my office, felt his presence like a shift in atmospheric pressure. Despite my best efforts to ignore him, my body always seemed hyper-aware when Ethan was near. It was infuriating. That's what you think I do? His tone was lighter now, almost curious. Coast. I finally looked up and immediately regretted it. Ethan Morrison was unfairly attractive, the kind of handsome that belonged in cologne advertisements or European fashion campaigns. Dark hair that always looked artfully tousled, sharp cheekbones, and those damn eyes. Gray-blue, like storm clouds over the ocean, with an intensity that made you feel seen in ways that were deeply uncomfortable. He'd loosened his tie, and his sleeves were rolled up to reveal forearms that suggested he did more than push pencils around. At 6'2", he had a few inches on my 5'11" frame, something he definitely used to his advantage during our frequent confrontations. Isn't it? I challenged, leaning back in my chair. You show up to meetings 15 minutes late with a coffee and a smile, charm the clients with stories about your semester in Barcelona, and somehow walk away with half the credit. Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. You really believe that? I've watched it happen for 2 years, Ethan. Since the day you transferred from the New York office with your Ivy League degree and your impressive portfolio of projects that, I might add, you worked on as part of teams led by other people. And you, he said, voice taking on an edge I rarely heard, have been trying to prove you're better than me ever since. Why is that, Daniel? What are you so afraid of? The question hit deeper than I expected. I'm not afraid of anything. Everyone's afraid of something. He moved closer, perching on the edge of my desk with a casualness that should have annoyed me more than it did. You're afraid people will think you don't deserve to be here, that you got lucky, that you're not as good as you think you are. My jaw tightened. You don't know me. I know you're the first person here every morning and the last to leave at night. I know you triple-check everything because you're terrified of making mistakes. I know you turn down drinks with the team because you think socializing is a waste of time. But really, you're just scared of letting people see past the perfect professional facade. This is rich, coming from someone who treats this place like a social club. And I know, he continued, his voice dropping lower, that you're competing for the Harrison Project because it's LGBTQ plus community-focused, and you think winning it will prove something. To the firm, to yourself, maybe to your family. The air left my lungs. We didn't talk about this, the unspoken understanding that we were both gay, both navigating the architectural world's old boys club, both carrying weights that had nothing to do with building designs and everything to do with being seen, being accepted, being enough. "Get out of my office, Morrison." He stood, and for a moment, I thought I saw something like regret in his eyes. "For what it's worth, Daniel, your design is brilliant. It always is. You don't need to prove anything to anyone." After he left, I sat in the silence, my heart racing for reasons I refused to examine. Ethan Morrison was my rival, my competition, the obstacle between me and everything I wanted. So why did his words feel like they'd carved something open inside me? The conference room on the 18th floor had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay. On any other day, I would have appreciated the view, the ferries cutting white paths through blue water, the Olympic mountains rising in the distance. Today, all I could focus on was the presentation that would determine my future. Mr. Sterling and Ms. Hayes sat at the head of the table, flanked by representatives from the Harrison Community Foundation. I'd presented first, walking them through my vision, a building that felt welcoming rather than institutional, with flowing spaces that encouraged gathering, sustainable materials that honored environmental responsibility, and design elements that celebrated LGBTQ+ history and culture without being heavy-handed. I'd worked pride flags into stained glass installations that would catch the afternoon light, hidden the pink triangle in geometric patterns that only revealed themselves from certain angles, created quiet spaces for those who needed refuge and open spaces for those ready to be seen. It was personal in ways I hadn't fully admitted to myself. Now Ethan stood at the front of the room, and I hated that I couldn't look away. He'd chosen a different approach, bold where I'd been subtle, celebratory where I'd been contemplative. His design featured a central atrium with a massive rainbow installation that would be visible from blocks away. A beacon, he called it. A declaration that this space was for everyone, but especially for those who'd been told they were less than, wrong, sinful. "Architecture should be brave," Ethan said, his passion evident in every word. "It should make statements. This community has been pushed to the margins for too long. They deserve a space that doesn't whisper. They deserve one that shouts, that says, 'We're here, we're proud, and we're not hiding anymore.'" As he spoke about chosen families and safe havens, about the kids who'd need to see that beacon when they felt lost and alone, his voice cracked slightly. Just for a moment, the polished presentation faltered, and I saw something raw underneath. Something that reminded me uncomfortably of myself at 17, sitting in my childhood bedroom in Sacramento, wondering if my parents would still love me when they knew the truth. When the presentations ended, Mr. Sterling announced they'd make their decision by the end of the week. As everyone filed out, Ethan and I found ourselves alone in the conference room. "Your design was beautiful," he said quietly, "thoughtful, the kind of space that would make people feel safe." I should have said thank you, should have been gracious. Instead, something brittle inside me snapped, but not brave enough, not loud enough. "That's not what I meant." "You always do this," I said, frustration bubbling over. "You swoop in with your grand gestures and your emotional appeals, and suddenly my work looks cold, calculated, like I don't care as much as you do." "Do you," the question was sharp, "care, or is this just another competition to win, another item to check off your perfect career path?" "How dare you?" "Because from where I'm standing, Daniel, you're so busy trying to be impressive that you've forgotten what it actually feels like to be vulnerable, to put your heart into something instead of just your technical skill." "You know nothing about my heart," I snapped, moving closer without meaning to. "Nothing about what I've sacrificed or what this means to me." "Then tell me," his voice rose to match mine. "Instead of treating me like the enemy, instead of assuming the worst about my intentions, actually talk to me like I'm a person and not just an obstacle in your way." We stood inches apart, both breathing hard, the air between us crackling with 2 years of tension. His eyes searched mine, and I saw frustration there, yes, but also something else. Something that made my pulse quicken and my stomach tighten. Why do you care? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Why does it matter what I think of you? Ethan's expression shifted, becoming vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. Because, he said slowly, despite everything, despite the competition and the arguments, and the fact that you've made it very clear you can't stand me, I respect you, Daniel, your work, your dedication, your integrity. And some foolish part of me hoped that maybe, underneath all the hostility, you might respect me too. The confession hung between us, heavy and unexpected. I opened my mouth, not sure what I was going to say, when Ms. Hayes appeared in the doorway. Gentlemen, we need the room for another meeting. The moment shattered, Ethan stepped back, his professional mask sliding into place. Of course, excuse me. He left without another word, and I stood alone in the conference room, feeling like I'd just lost something I hadn't known I wanted. 3 days later, I found myself at Nexus, a gay bar in Capitol Hill that I rarely frequented. My friend Marcus had insisted I needed to get out of my head and into someone else's bed, which was his solution to most of life's problems. Your wound tighter than a spring, Marcus said, sliding a gin and tonic across the bar to me. When's the last time you had fun? And I don't mean reorganizing your design portfolio. I mean actual fun. I have fun, I protested weakly. Marcus, a stunning black man with impeccable style and zero patience for my nonsense, raised an eyebrow. Name one fun thing you've done in the last month that didn't involve work. I opened my mouth, closed it. I'm making a point, Marcus said. You're 28 years old, successful and hot. Yes, hot, don't argue with me. And you spend every night alone with your drafting table like some tragic Victorian poet. I'm focused on my career. Your career isn't going to keep you warm at night, honey. He nodded toward the dance floor. That man has been checking you out since we got here. The one in the blue shirt. Go talk to him. I glanced over, attractive, sure, but I felt nothing. No spark, no interest, no. Oh my God, Marcus breathed. Is that Ethan Morrison? My head whipped around so fast, I nearly gave myself whiplash. Sure enough, Ethan stood near the entrance, scanning the crowd. He wore jeans and a fitted black t-shirt that did absolutely nothing to hide his physique, and he looked completely different from the suited professional I was used to seeing. He looked like someone I might actually want to know. Our eyes met across the bar, and something in my chest constricted. He started moving toward us, and I had approximately 15 seconds to decide whether to run or stay. Well, Marcus murmured, this just got interesting. Daniel, Ethan said when he reached us, and God, the way he said my name. I didn't expect to see you here. I could say the same. I'm Marcus, my friend interjected, extending his hand with a knowing smile. I've heard absolutely nothing about you, which is fascinating considering how much Danny talks about work. I wanted to die, Marcus. I was just leaving, actually. He grabbed his jacket with theatrical flair. Danny, text me later, or not, whatever happens. He winked and disappeared into the crowd. Traitor. Ethan and I stood in awkward silence for a moment. Finally, he said, can I buy you a drink? I have one. Another drink then, after that one, he paused. I'd like to talk if you're willing. Something in his expression made me nod. We found a quieter corner, away from the pounding music and writhing bodies. The lighting was dim, intimate, and I was acutely aware of how close we were sitting. I'm sorry, Ethan said abruptly, for what I said after the presentations, about you not caring, not being vulnerable. That wasn't fair. You weren't entirely wrong, I admitted, the words tasting strange. I do keep people at arm's length, I always have. Why? The question was gentle, genuinely curious. Maybe it was the gin, or the atmosphere, or the fact that we were finally just two people instead of rivals, but I found myself answering honestly. Because being vulnerable has never been safe for me. I stared at my glass. Growing up, I learned to be perfect. Perfect grades, perfect behavior, perfect son. Being gay wasn't part of that equation, so I hid it. And even after I came out, even after my parents eventually came around, I never stopped performing. never stopped trying to be impressive enough that people would forget I was different. Daniel, his voice was soft. You know you don't have to be perfect, right? You're already impressive just as you are. I laughed, but it came out bitter. That's easy for you to say. You move through the world like you belong everywhere, like you've never doubted yourself. Is that really what you think? Ethan leaned forward. Daniel, I'm terrified most of the time. Terrified I'm not as good as my reputation suggests, that people will realize I'm making it up as I go along, that I'll never live up to my father's legacy at the firm. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the cracks in his confident facade. Your father. Robert Morrison, he was one of Sterling and Hayes' founding partners before Sterling and Hayes bought him out. He built his career there, and everyone remembers him as brilliant, visionary. Ethan's smile was sad. When I transferred to Seattle, people expected me to be just like him. So I smile and charm and act like I have it all together, because if I don't, I'm not just failing myself, I'm failing his memory. I didn't know, I said quietly, about your father. Most people don't. He died when I was in college, came out to my family's senior year, and he struggled with it. We were just starting to repair things when he had a heart attack. His voice went rough. Never got to hear him say he accepted me, that he was proud of who I actually was, not who he wanted me to be. Without thinking, I reached out and covered his hand with mine. Ethan, I'm sorry. He looked down at our hands, then back up at me, and the expression in his eyes made my breath catch. The reason I push you, Daniel, the reason I've been so persistent, is because I see myself in you. The walls, the perfectionism, the fear of not being enough. And I guess I wanted to shake you out of it, make you see that you're already more than enough. And here I thought you just enjoyed annoying me, I said, trying for lightness but failing. Oh, I definitely enjoy annoying you, his lips quirked, but there are other things I'd enjoy more. The air between us changed, charged with possibility. Like what? Like getting to know the real Daniel Cross, not the polished professional or the perfect son or the tireless competitor, just you. My heart hammered against my ribs. That's a dangerous proposition. Why? Because I don't think I remember how to be just me. Then let me help you remember. Ethan's thumb traced circles on my hand, sending electricity up my arm. Starting now, no work talk, no competition, just two people getting to know each other. What do you say? I should have said no, should have protected myself, maintained the boundaries that had kept me safe for so long. But sitting there in that dim corner of the bar, with Ethan Morrison looking at me like I was something precious and worth knowing, I found myself saying the most terrifying word in my vocabulary. Yes. We stayed at the bar until last call, talking about everything except work. I learned that Ethan loved old movies, the black and white ones where everyone wore impeccable suits and traded witty banter, that he was secretly a terrible cook, but kept trying because his father used to say a man should know his way around a kitchen, that he'd been in love once, at 24, with a man who'd ultimately chosen staying closeted over being with him. It taught me that I couldn't compromise on that, Ethan said. On being out, being visible, life's too short to hide who you are for someone else's comfort. I told him about growing up in Sacramento, about my mother's initial tears when I came out, but you'll have such a hard life, and my father's awkward but genuine attempts to understand. About my younger sister who'd hugged me tight and said, finally, I've known since you were 14. What made you want to be an architect? Ethan asked as we stepped out into the cool Seattle night. I like the idea of creating spaces where people feel safe, I said, where they can be themselves. I grew up feeling like I didn't quite fit anywhere. And I guess I wanted to build places where other people wouldn't have to feel that way. That's why the Harrison Project means so much to you. Yeah, I shoved my hands in my pockets. It's a chance to give back to the community that gave me everything. The first time I walked into a queer space, I was 19 and scared out of my mind. But someone smiled at me, asked if I wanted to sit with their group, and suddenly I wasn't alone anymore. I want to create that feeling, that moment of recognition and welcome. Ethan stopped walking. Your design was never cold, Daniel. It was tender, protective. You were building a home, not a monument. Something in my chest cracked open, and yours was brave, I admitted. A declaration, both approaches matter, both are needed. We could have collaborated, he said quietly. Our designs would have been incredible together. We still could. The words surprised me, but once I said them, I knew they were true. The decision hasn't been announced yet. What if we went to Sterling and Hayes tomorrow and proposed a joint design? His eyes widened. You do that, share the project. I'm starting to think that maybe competition isn't the only way forward. I met his gaze. That maybe we are stronger together than apart. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face, transforming him from handsome to devastating. Daniel Cross, are you suggesting we become partners? The way he said partners sent heat through my veins. Professional partners for the project. Of course, professional, but his eyes said something entirely different. We stood on the sidewalk, the city quiet around us, and I realized with startling clarity that everything had changed. The man I'd seen as my enemy for 2 years was looking at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking for a long time. And God help me, I was looking at him the same way. I should get home, I said, not moving. You should, Ethan agreed, also not moving. This is complicated. Extremely complicated. We work together, we're competing for the same project. Getting involved would be inadvisable, Ethan finished. Unprofessional, potentially disastrous. Exactly. We stood there inches apart, the air crackling between us. Then Ethan said, voice low, but you're thinking about it anyway, aren't you? My heart hammered. I shouldn't be. That's not an answer, Daniel. He was right, it wasn't. And the truth, the terrifying, exhilarating truth, was that I couldn't stop thinking about it, about him, about what it might feel like to let these walls down, to stop competing and start something else. Yes, I whispered, I'm thinking about it. Ethan's breath caught. He lifted his hands slowly, giving me time to pull away, and cupped my jaw. His thumb brushed my cheekbone, and I shivered. Tell me to stop, he murmured. I should have. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was a mistake, that mixing professional and personal was a recipe for disaster, that I barely knew this version of Ethan Morrison and couldn't trust these feelings that had seemingly appeared overnight. Except they hadn't appeared overnight. If I was honest with myself, truly honest, this tension had been building for 2 years. Every argument, every competitive glare, every moment of awareness, it had all been leading here. Don't stop, I said. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was 2 years of pent-up frustration and unacknowledged attraction finally breaking free. His mouth was hot and demanding against mine, and I responded with equal hunger, fisting my hands in his shirt and pulling him closer. He tasted like whiskey and possibility, and when his tongue slid against mine, I made a sound I'd be embarrassed about later. His hands moved to my waist, steadying me, and I realized I was trembling. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan pressed his forehead to mine. I've wanted to do that, he said, voice rough, since the first time you yelled at me in the break room. I laughed breathlessly. That's deeply concerning. Tell me about it. He pulled back enough to look at me. Daniel, I know this is fast, and I know it's complicated, but I need you to know this isn't just physical for me. I meant what I said earlier. I want to know you, all of you. My throat tightened. I don't know if I know how to do that. We'll figure it out together. He kissed me again, softer this time, if you want to. And God, I wanted to. Despite every wall I'd built, every defense mechanism I'd carefully constructed, I wanted this, wanted him. Okay, I whispered against his lips, together. I woke up the next morning with my heart racing and my mind spiraling. What had I done? Kissing Ethan Morrison, my rival, my colleague, the man I'd spent 2 years convinced was everything wrong with corporate architecture, and then agreeing to some kind of relationship, partnership, whatever this was. My phone buzzed with a text. Good morning, Last night wasn't a dream, was it? E. Despite my panic, I smiled. If it was, we both had the same one. Coffee before we go to Sterling and Hayes. We should plan our joint proposal. Right, we'd agreed to that too, combining our designs, becoming actual partners instead of competitors. It made sense professionally, both designs had strengths, and together they could be extraordinary. But it also meant spending more time with Ethan, working closely with him, all while trying to navigate whatever this new thing between us was. I texted back an address of a quiet cafe near the office, then spent 20 minutes trying to decide what to wear, which was ridiculous. I'd never cared about this before, but somehow everything felt different in the morning light. When I arrived at the cafe, Ethan was already there, 2 cups of coffee on the table. He'd clearly put thought into his outfit too, dark jeans, a cream-colored sweater that made his eyes even more striking, and a nervous energy that I found oddly comforting. "Hey," he said, smiling tentatively. "Hey yourself." I sat down, wrapping my hands around the coffee cup he pushed toward me. "So, last night." "Last night," he echoed. "Any regrets?" I thought about lying, about protecting myself, but that was the old Daniel, the one who kept everyone at arm's length. "Terrified," I admitted, "but no regrets, you." His smile widened, genuine and relieved. "Same, very terrified, 0 regrets." He pulled out his tablet. "I've been thinking about the designs. What if we use your subtle integration of LGBTQ plus history and culture throughout the space, but incorporate my central atrium as a focal point, the beacon and the refuge combined?" As he talked, sketching rough ideas, I felt my creative mind engaging. He was right, our approaches complemented each other perfectly. My attention to detail and thoughtful flow, his bold statements and emotional resonance. Together, we could create something that was both welcoming and proud, subtle and declarative. "The stained glass installations," I said, leaning forward. "What if we extended them into the atrium, so the rainbow becomes part of a larger story, geometric patterns that only reveal their full meaning when you're in the central space?" "Yes," Ethan's eyes lit up. "And we could use your idea of quiet spaces radiating off the main area, places for people who need refuge, but connected to the celebration." We worked for an hour, ideas flowing between us with an ease that should have been impossible given our history. But somehow, now that we weren't competing, we were harmonious, our different strengths balancing each other, creating something neither of us could have achieved alone. "We are good at this," Ethan said, looking at our combined sketches, "working together." "Yeah," I met his eyes, "we are." "Makes me wonder what else we'd be good at together." Heat flooded my face. "Ethan." Sorry, but he didn't look sorry, too soon. "We are about to walk into our boss's office and propose a joint project. Maybe we should focus on that first." "Practical as always," he grinned. "It's one of the things I find most attractive about you." "One of the things." "Oh, there's a list. We can go through it later if you'd like, preferably somewhere private." I was definitely blushing now. "You're incorrigible." "You like it?" The terrible thing was, I did. The playfulness, the flirtation, the way he looked at me like I was someone worth teasing, worth knowing, worth wanting. It was unfamiliar and thrilling and absolutely terrifying. At Sterling and Hayes, we requested a meeting with the partners. Ms. Hayes looked skeptical when we announced our intention to present a joint proposal. "You two have been competitors for 2 years," she said. "What changed?" Ethan and I exchanged glances. "We realized," I said carefully, "that our approaches are complementary, not contradictory, and that the Harrison project deserves the best we can both offer. Not just one or the other." "Show us," Mr. Sterling said. We presented our combined vision. My flow and thoughtfulness merged with Ethan's boldness and emotional impact. The room fell silent as we walked them through it, and I felt my heart pounding. This mattered so much more now because it wasn't just my project or his project. It was ours. When we finished, Ms. Hayes sat back. "Gentlemen, this is exceptional, better than either individual proposal." She looked at Mr. Sterling, who nodded. We'll need to present it to the Harrison Foundation, but pending their approval, the project is yours, together. We'd done it. We'd actually done it. In the elevator afterward, alone, Ethan grabbed my hand. We're partners now, he said, grinning, official and everything. Professional partners, I reminded him, but I was smiling too. Of course, very professional. He tugged me closer as the elevator doors opened to the parking garage. So professional that I'm absolutely not thinking about kissing you right now. We're at work, Morrison. Fine, he released me, but his eyes promised this conversation wasn't over. Dinner tonight, to celebrate our professional partnership. Is this a date? Do you want it to be? I thought about it, about all the reasons this was complicated, all the ways it could go wrong. Then I thought about how it felt to work with him this morning, to create something beautiful together, to be seen and understood in ways I'd never allowed before. Yes, I said, I want it to be a date. His smile could have lit up the entire garage. Pick you up at 7. I'll text you my address. As I walked to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. Terrified, yes. Uncertain about where this was heading, absolutely, but also happy, genuinely, unexpectedly happy. My phone buzzed, already counting down the hours. I typed back, same, but stay focused. We have a project to plan. Always so responsible. I'll corrupt you eventually. You can try. Challenge accepted, cross. I got in my car, grinning like an idiot, and realized that somewhere along the way, the man I'd thought was my enemy had become the person I most wanted to see. And I had no idea what I was going to do about that. I changed my outfit 4 times before Ethan arrived. This was absurd. I was a grown man, a successful architect, and I was having a crisis over what to wear to dinner. But nothing felt right. Too formal made it seem like I was trying too hard. Too casual suggested I didn't care. I needed something that said I'm interested but not desperate, attracted but not easy, open but still protected. Finally, I settled on dark jeans and a charcoal button-down, leaving the top button undone because Marcus's voice in my head insisted, show some collarbone, Danny. Give him something to think about. When the knock came, my heart rate spiked. I opened the door to find Ethan in black jeans and a deep blue shirt that made his eyes impossible to ignore, holding a single sunflower. I know roses are traditional, he said, looking endearingly nervous, but you strike me as someone who'd appreciate something less expected. I took the flower, touched in ways I couldn't quite express. Sunflowers are my favorite, how did you know? I didn't, just hoped, he smiled. You ready? He'd made reservations at a small Italian restaurant in Fremont, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles melting onto wine bottles. Intimate without being pretentious, warm without being cliché. I wasn't sure what kind of food you liked, Ethan admitted as we studied the menus. I realized there's still so much I don't know about you. Well, you know I'm competitive, neurotic, and terrified of vulnerability, I said lightly. I know you're dedicated, principled, and brave enough to be vulnerable even when it scares you. His foot found mine under the table. I also know you take your coffee black, you bite your lip when you're concentrating, and you have a tell when you're about to disagree with someone, you tilt your head slightly to the right. I stared at him. You've been paying that much attention. Daniel, I've been paying attention to you since the day we met. Why do you think you got under my skin so effectively? You were the only person who didn't buy my charm routine, who challenged me, who made me want to be better. The waiter arrived, saving me from having to respond. We ordered pasta for him, risotto for me, and fell into easier conversation. But his words stayed with me, reframing every interaction we'd had over the past 2 years. Can I ask you something? I said as we waited for our food. Why architecture? You said your father was in the field, but was that the only reason? Ethan considered the question, swirling the wine in his glass. After he died, I almost quit. Being an architect felt like trying to live his life instead of mine. But then I realized something. Buildings outlast us. They become part of other people's stories. Every structure I design might be standing long after I'm gone, giving someone else shelter or beauty or a sense of belonging. He met my eyes. That felt important. Legacy, but on my own terms. That's beautiful, I said softly. What about you? What made architecture more than just a career? I thought back to being 17, closeted and miserable, finding solace in sketching buildings, creating perfect worlds on paper when my real world felt impossibly complicated. Control, I admitted. In architecture, everything can be planned, measured, perfected. There are rules and logic and solutions. My personal life felt chaotic, but in design, I could create order. And now I'm learning that maybe some chaos isn't bad, that some things can't be planned or controlled. I held his gaze. That maybe that's okay. His hand covered mine on the table, warm and solid. For what it's worth, I think you're doing incredibly well with the chaos. We talked through dinner, the conversation flowing as easily as it had that morning at the cafe. We debated architectural movements. He loved brutalism. I found it hostile, swapped stories about our worst client meetings, and discovered we'd both been at the same protest for marriage equality in 2013 without knowing it. We were probably standing 50 feet from each other, Ethan marveled. Isn't that strange? Our lives running parallel without ever intersecting. Until they did. Until they did, he agreed, and you spent 2 years hating me. I didn't hate you, I protested. I just found you incredibly frustrating. Same thing. No, hate would have been easier. Frustration meant I was paying attention. I paused, meant you mattered. Something shifted in his expression, became more intense, past tense. What? You said found you frustrating, past tense. Do I still frustrate you? I thought about it honestly. Yes, but in different ways now. You frustrate me because you make me want things I'd convinced myself I didn't need, because you see through my defenses, because somehow, in the space of one conversation, you made me question everything I thought I knew about you, about myself, about what I want from my life. Daniel, I'm not done. I needed to say this, needed him to understand. You asked earlier if I had regrets. The truth is, my only regret is that I wasted 2 years being your rival when I could have been something else, something more. Ethan's hand tightened on mine. We're here now, that's what matters. After dinner, we walked through Fremont, past the famous troll sculpture under the bridge and the quirky shops that gave the neighborhood its character. The night was cool, and when I shivered, Ethan shrugged off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. You don't have to. I want to. He kept his arm around me, tucking me against his side. This okay? More than okay. It felt right in a way that should have scared me, but somehow didn't. We walked in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city move around us. Can I tell you something? Ethan said eventually. Something I probably shouldn't admit this early. You're not secretly a serial killer, are you? He laughed. No, though I appreciate you checking. His smile faded, became more serious. That first day we met, when you were presenting a design in the weekly review, you were so passionate about creating accessible spaces. You talked about how architecture should serve everyone, not just the privileged. And I thought, he paused, I thought you were the most compelling person I'd ever seen. My breath caught. Ethan. I know too much too soon. But I spent 2 years trying to get your attention the only way I knew how, by challenging you, competing with you, making you notice me even if you were annoyed. And now that I actually have your attention, now that you're looking at me like I'm someone worth knowing, I don't want to waste time pretending I feel less than I do. We stopped walking. I turned to face him fully, my heart hammering against my ribs. You terrify me, I said quietly. The way you make me feel, the way you see me, it's terrifying. I've spent my entire adult life keeping people at a distance, staying in control. And then you kiss me once, and suddenly I'm free falling without a net. I'll catch you, Ethan said immediately. Daniel, I will catch you. I know it's fast, I know it's scary, but I'm falling for you. The words burst out of me, unstoppable. I don't know how or when it started, but I'm falling for you, and it's terrifying and exhilarating, and I don't know what to do with it. For a moment, Ethan just stared at me. Then he cupped my face in both hands and kissed me with an intensity that made my knees weak. This kiss was different from the one outside the bar, deeper, more certain, full of promise and possibility. When we broke apart, he pressed his forehead to mine. "I'm falling for you too," he whispered. "Have been for a while, I think, maybe from the beginning." "That's impossible. We couldn't stand each other." Or maybe we felt too much and didn't know what to do with it. His thumb traced my cheekbone. "Come home with me tonight. Not for I mean if you want to, but that's not." He laughed at himself. "I'm trying to say I just want more time with you, want to keep talking, keep learning who you are, stay up too late discussing nothing and everything, wake up with you tomorrow and make you terrible coffee because I'm a disaster in the kitchen." It was the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to me, and the scariest. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Yes." His smile was incandescent. "Yeah. Yeah." We caught a rideshare to his apartment in Belltown, and I tried not to think about what I was doing, what this meant, how quickly things were moving. Instead, I focused on the feeling of his hand in mine, the way he looked at me like I was precious, the possibility of a future I'd never let myself imagine. His apartment was surprisingly cozy, all warm woods and soft lighting, with bookshelves covering one wall and architectural models displayed like art pieces. A guitar leaned in the corner, and I raised an eyebrow. "You play." "Badly, but it's therapeutic." He moved to the kitchen. "Wine, or I can make coffee, though I warned you it's terrible." "Wine is good." We ended up on his couch, legs tangled together, talking until 3 in the morning. About our dreams for the Harrison project, about the places we wanted to travel, about the small moments that shaped us. He told me about coming out to his father, the year of silence that followed, the rushed reconciliation that came too late. I told him about my sister's wedding, where I'd brought a boyfriend for the first time and my grandmother had made a scene, and how my parents had quietly but firmly asked her to leave. "They chose you," Ethan said softly. "Eventually, it took time, but yeah, they did. Mine would have too, I know that now. I just wish we'd had more time to get there." I kissed him then, gently, offering comfort the only way I knew how. He pulled me closer, and the kiss deepened, became something more. His hands slid under my shirt, and I gasped against his mouth. "Too fast," he murmured. I thought about saying yes, about protecting myself, about all the logical reasons to slow down. Instead, I said, "Not fast enough." We didn't sleep that night, but we didn't have sex either, not yet. Instead, we explored each other slowly, learning the landscape of skin and muscle, discovering what made the other gasp or shiver or sigh. It was intimate in ways that went beyond physical, vulnerable in ways that terrified and thrilled me. When dawn started creeping through his windows, I lay in his arms, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. His fingers traced patterns on my bare shoulder, and I'd never felt safer or more exposed in my life. "Stay," he whispered. "Don't disappear on me when the sun comes up." "I'm not going anywhere," I promised. And I meant it. The next few weeks passed in a blur of meetings, design revisions, and stolen moments. We presented our combined proposal to the Harrison Foundation, and watching their faces light up as they saw how we'd woven together celebration and refuge, boldness and subtlety, felt like validation of everything we'd built, both professionally and personally. "This is exactly what we hoped for," the foundation director said, her eyes bright with emotion. "A space that honors our past while celebrating our future, that welcomes everyone while specifically centering LGBTQ+ voices. You've understood the assignment in ways we didn't even know to ask for." After the meeting, Ethan grabbed my hand under the table, squeezing tightly. We'd done it, together. But success brought new challenges. Working closely with Ethan meant managing professional boundaries while navigating a deepening personal relationship. We were careful at the office, no obvious displays of affection, no preferential treatment, but everyone noticed the shift anyway. "You two are different," Marcus observed one evening when he dragged me out for drinks. "Like, the tension is still there, but it's sexier now, Also, you're smiling way more than usual. It's unsettling. I laughed. Things have changed between us. I gathered, so are you official? Boyfriends, partners, what are we calling this? I realized I didn't actually know. We hadn't defined it, too caught up in the newness of everything to attach labels. We're figuring it out. Danny, Marcus fixed me with a look. You don't do figuring it out. You plan everything. The fact that you're comfortable with ambiguity means you're in deep. He wasn't wrong. I was in deep, deeper than I'd ever been with anyone. But the lack of definition also scared me. What if Ethan wanted something casual? What if I was investing more emotionally than he was? That night, I brought it up as we lay in my bed, the city lights casting shadows across my walls. What are we doing? I asked. This, us. Ethan propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me. What do you want us to be doing? I asked first. He smiled. Fair, I want. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I want you to be my boyfriend. I want to take you to dinner and hold your hand in public and introduce you to my friends as the person I'm with. I want to build this project together and see where this takes us beyond that. He cupped my face. I want a real relationship with you, Daniel, if that's what you want too. Relief flooded through me. That's what I want, exactly that. Yes. Yeah, I pulled him down for a kiss, though we should probably tell the firm, HR and all that. Already ahead of you, I filed the relationship disclosure form last week. I blinked. You did. I wanted to make sure we were covered, didn't want there to be any question about propriety or favoritism. He looked uncertain suddenly. Was that presumptuous? Should I have asked first? No, I felt warmth spreading through my chest. It's exactly right. You were protecting us, making sure we could be together without professional complications. Someone has to think ahead, he teased. You're usually so busy overthinking the present that you forget about practical future concerns. I do not overthink. I stopped at his expression. Okay, I overthink everything, but you love it. I do love it. He said it so simply, so naturally, that it took a moment for the words to register. Love, he'd said love. Ethan. Too soon. He didn't look scared, just curious. Because I'm not taking it back. I'm falling in love with you, Daniel Cross. Have been since that night at the bar when you admitted you didn't know how to be vulnerable, maybe even before that. My throat tightened. I'm falling in love with you too, I whispered. It terrifies me. Good, he kissed me softly. Let's be terrified together. 3 months into the project and our relationship, we hit our first major crisis. The Harrison project site assessment revealed contamination from an old industrial facility, nothing dangerous, but enough to require remediation that would blow our budget and timeline. We'll have to scale back the design, I said, staring at the report in our shared office space. We'd requested to work together officially, and the firm had agreed, giving us a larger office with 2 desks facing each other. We can't scale back, Ethan argued. This community has been promised something transformative. We can't deliver something diminished because of budget constraints. Then what do you suggest? The money doesn't magically appear. We find alternative funding, grants, donations, corporate sponsors. That takes time we don't have. The construction start date is already set. We went back and forth, tension rising. This was different from our old arguments. We weren't fighting to win. But we were fighting, our different approaches clashing, both of us passionate about the project but unable to find middle ground. You're being stubborn, Ethan said, frustration evident. I'm being realistic. We have constraints. And you always want to work within the constraints instead of challenging them. Sometimes you have to fight for what matters, Daniel. And sometimes you have to be practical instead of idealistic, I snapped. Not every problem can be solved with passion and determination. Is that what you think of me, that I'm all passion and no substance? That's not what I said. But it's what you meant. He stood, gathering his things. You know what? I need some space to think about the project and other things. He left and I sat in our office, surrounded by our combined designs and months of work, feeling like I'd just driven away the best thing that ever happened to me. Marcus found me there an hour later, still staring at the blueprints. "What happened?" he asked gently. "We had a fight about the project, and I think I implied that he's not as serious or thoughtful as I am." Marcus winced. "Danny, you know that's his sore spot, the whole charm without substance thing he thinks people believe about him." "I know, God, I know, I didn't mean it like that, but," I rubbed my face, "what if we're too different? What if this doesn't work?" "Do you want it to work?" "More than anything." "Then you fight for it. You, Daniel Cross, who plans everything and plays it safe, you take a risk. You go after what you want, and you apologize for hurting someone you love." He was right. I'd spent my whole life avoiding risk, staying in control, keeping people at arm's length. But Ethan had made me want more, made me want to be brave. I found him at his apartment, packing his living room. "I'm sorry," I said before he could speak. "What I implied, that you're not thoughtful or serious, it was wrong and untrue. You're one of the most dedicated, passionate, thoughtful people I know. Your approach is different from mine, but it's not less valid. It's exactly what the project needs, what I need." He stopped packing. "I'm sorry too, for dismissing your concerns. You're not being stubborn, you're being responsible, making sure we don't promise something we can't deliver." "So what do we do?" Ethan smiled slightly. "We compromise. We find the middle ground. We use my networking skills to pursue additional funding while you create a scaled-back backup plan. We work together instead of pulling in opposite directions." "That sounds suspiciously reasonable." "I have my moments." He closed the distance between us. "Daniel, relationships are going to have conflicts. We're going to disagree. But as long as we're fighting for us instead of against each other, we'll be okay." "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You were just too busy competing with me to notice." I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it, apology and love and gratitude for his patience. "I love you," I said against his lips, in case that wasn't clear. "I love you too." He pulled me close. "Now let's figure out how to save our project." We spent the next week working around the clock. Ethan reached out to every LGBTQ+ organization and sympathetic corporation he could find, leveraging connections and making impassioned pleas. I refined our designs, finding creative solutions that maintained the vision while reducing costs. And we did it together. Late nights at the office turned into brainstorming sessions at his apartment or mine. Coffee runs became opportunities to decompress and reconnect. Stress became something we navigated as a team rather than separately. When we finally secured the additional funding, a combination of grants, donations, and a matching contribution from the firm itself, we were in our office, exhausted and relieved and triumphant. "We did it," Ethan said, disbelief and joy mixing in his voice. "We did it," I echoed. He kissed me right there in the office, not caring who might see, and I kissed him back because this was worth celebrating. We were worth celebrating. 6 months later, I stood at the construction site of the Harrison Community Center, watching the framework of our combined vision take shape. The central atrium was already stunning, its structure suggesting the beacon it would become. Around it, the spaces we designed together flowed naturally, creating the balance of celebration and refuge we'd fought for. "It's really happening," Ethan said, coming to stand beside me. "Our design, our vision, coming to life." "Our first project together," I said, "won't be the last if I have anything to say about it." He looked at me, eyes soft. "Is that your way of saying you want to be professional partners long-term?" "Professional partners, life partners, whatever kind of partners you want partners." I took his hand, no longer caring who saw. "You've changed everything for me, Ethan. The way I see my work, the way I see myself, the way I move through the world. I was so focused on competing, on being perfect, that I forgot what it felt like to collaborate, to be part of something bigger than myself." "Daniel." "I'm not done. You made me brave, made me willing to be vulnerable, to take risks, to let someone really see me. And I know we'll have more fights and more obstacles because that's life. But I also know that I want to face all of it with you, if you'll have me. Ethan's eyes were suspiciously bright. Are you proposing to me at a construction site? What? No, I mean not yet. Unless you want. I stopped at his expression. You're teasing me. I am, but also, he pulled something from his pocket, a key. I'm asking if you want to move in with me, or we could find a place together, something that's ours. My heart swelled. That's a big step. We've already taken all the big steps. This is just the logical next one. He pressed the key into my palm. What do you say? I looked at the key, then at him, then at the building rising behind us, a structure that represented everything we'd built together, everything we'd become to each other. Yes, I said, absolutely yes. He kissed me there on the construction site, both of us grinning like idiots. A few workers whistled and applauded, and we broke apart laughing. We're causing a scene, I said. Good, let them see. Ethan kept his arm around me. Let everyone see that we found something worth building together. 3 months later, we hosted a housewarming party in our new apartment, a converted loft in Pike Place Market with exposed brick and huge windows overlooking the water. Marcus gave a toast that was equal parts touching and inappropriate. My parents flew up from Sacramento and charmed Ethan completely. His friends from New York visited and told embarrassing stories from his college days. Later, after everyone had left and we were cleaning up, I found myself just watching him. This man who'd started as my rival and become my partner in every sense of the word. What? He asked, noticing my stare. Just thinking about how wrong I was about you. Oh, do tell. I thought you were arrogant, superficial, someone who coasted by on charm. Turns out you're thoughtful, genuine, and work twice as hard as anyone else while making it look effortless. He crossed to me, pulling me close. And I thought you were cold, rigid, impossible to reach. Turns out you're warm, funny, and capable of extraordinary vulnerability when you trust someone enough. We were both pretty wrong. Best mistake I ever made, competing with you for that project. Best mistake I ever made, thinking I hated you. We swayed together in our living room, no music playing, just the sound of the city outside and each other's breathing. Thank you, Ethan said quietly. For what? For giving me a chance, for seeing past the walls we'd both built, for being brave enough to let me in. I pulled back enough to look at him. Thank you for being persistent, for not giving up on me even when I was determined to keep you at arm's length, for showing me that it's okay to want more from life than just professional success. I love you, Daniel Cross. I love you too, Ethan Morrison. He kissed me, soft and sweet and full of promise, and I thought about the journey that had brought us here, from rivals to partners, from competition to collaboration, from enmity to love. The Harrison project was nearly complete now, just weeks from its grand opening. Our beacon for the community, our refuge for those who needed it. The building would stand for decades, maybe centuries, a testament to what two people could create when they worked together instead of against each other. But more than that, it was a testament to us, to the love we'd built from the most unlikely foundation, to the courage it took to let someone past your defenses, to the magic that happens when you stop competing and start collaborating. Not just in work, but in life. Dance with me, Ethan said, even though there was still no music. There's nothing to dance to. Dance with me anyway. So we did. We danced in our living room, in the life we'd built together, in the love that had transformed us both. And it was perfect. Not because everything had been easy, it hadn't. Not because we never fought or disagreed, we did. But because we'd found each other despite the obstacles, despite our own fears and defenses. Because we'd chosen each other every day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. The next morning, I woke up to find Ethan already awake, watching me with that expression that still made my heart race. Good morning, he murmured. Morning, I stretched cat-like. What are you thinking about? Just that a year ago, If someone had told me my rival would become the love of my life, I would have laughed. Only a year ago, I would have laughed a week before we kissed. Fair point, he traced his fingers along my jaw. I'm glad we were both wrong. Me too. We got ready for work together, the morning routine we developed over months of living together. Ethan made terrible coffee as promised, I fixed us actual breakfast, and we argued playfully about whose turn it was to do the dishes. Domestic, normal, perfect. At the office, we presented our next joint proposal, a mixed-use development that would provide affordable housing and community spaces in Rainier Valley. We developed a reputation as the team to bring in for projects that required both innovative design and community sensitivity. You two have really found your niche, Ms. Hayes said after the presentation. The firm is lucky to have you both, and lucky that you found each other. Walking out of the meeting, Ethan grabbed my hand. She's not wrong, I am lucky to have found you. The feeling is entirely mutual. That evening, we returned to the Harrison project site for a final walkthrough before the opening. The building was complete now, our vision fully realized. The rainbow installation in the central atrium caught the late afternoon light, casting colors across the space. The subtle historical references we'd woven throughout spoke to those who knew to look for them. The quiet corners provided refuge, while the open spaces invited celebration. It was everything we'd hoped for, and more. It's beautiful, I said softly. We did this, Ethan replied, wonder in his voice, together. We stood in the center of the atrium, surrounded by what we'd created, and I thought about all the people who would find community here, who would feel seen and welcomed and valued, who would look up at this rainbow beacon and know they weren't alone. I wish I could tell my 17-year-old self about this moment, I said. About this building, about you, about the life I'd have. Maybe it would have made the hard parts easier. What would you tell him? I thought about that scared kid in Sacramento, so afraid of being seen, so determined to be perfect. That it gets better. That one day he'll meet someone who sees past his walls and loves him anyway. That he'll create something beautiful that helps other people feel less alone. That being exactly who he is will be enough, more than enough. Ethan pulled me close. For what it's worth, I think that kid did pretty well for himself. Yes. Yeah, he became someone I'm proud to love, someone brave and talented and capable of extraordinary things, someone who makes me want to be better every day. I kissed him there in the atrium, in the space we'd built together, in the light of the rainbow we'd created. And I felt, perhaps for the first time in my life, completely at peace with who I was and who I'd become. The grand opening was a celebration unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Community members, local officials, LGBTQ+ leaders, and firm representatives all gathered to witness the unveiling of the Harrison Community Center. Speeches were given, tears were shed, and when the doors officially opened, the crowd's joy was palpable. An older woman approached us during the reception, her eyes wet with emotion. "Thank you," she said simply, "for creating this, for giving us a home." After she walked away, I felt Ethan's hand find mine. "This is why we do it," he said quietly, "moments like this." Yeah, my voice was thick. It really is. As the celebration continued around us, we slipped away to the rooftop terrace we'd designed as a quiet contemplation space. The Seattle skyline spread before us, the sun setting over the sound. "You know what I love most about this project?" Ethan asked. "What?" "That it's not the ending, it's just the beginning. We have so many more buildings to design, so many more communities to serve. We get to do this together for the rest of our lives, if we want." "I want," I said immediately. "I very much want." He turned to face me fully, and there was something in his expression that made my breath catch. "Then I have one more question for you." He pulled a small box from his pocket, and my heart stopped. "Daniel Cross, you were meant to be my enemy, my rival, the person I competed against for everything, but you became my partner, my best friend, my home. Will you also be my husband?" The world narrowed to just us, just this moment, just the question hanging in the air between us. Yes, I said, laughing and crying simultaneously. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on my finger, a simple platinum band with both our initials engraved inside, and kissed me as the sun set on the city we'd both grown to love, on the building we'd created together, on the life we were just beginning to build. I love you, he whispered against my lips. I love you too. I pulled back to look at him, this man who'd transformed my entire world. Thank you for not giving up on me, for seeing who I could be even when I couldn't see it myself. Thank you for letting me in, for being brave enough to trust me with your heart. We stood there as the sky turned from gold to pink to purple, holding each other, planning our future, marveling at how something that had seemed like enmity had been love waiting to be discovered all along. Because sometimes the person standing on the opposite side isn't your enemy at all. Sometimes they're your destiny, your partner, your home. Sometimes the person you think you hate is actually the person you're meant to love for the rest of your life. And sometimes all it takes is one kiss to reveal the truth. The architectural magazine spread across our kitchen table featured the Harrison Community Center with the headline, "When Rivals Become Partners," the love story behind Seattle's most celebrated building. They're really playing up the romance angle, Ethan said, reading over my shoulder as I flipped through the pages. Can you blame them? It's a good story. I leaned back against him. Enemies to lovers, professional rivalry turned partnership, a building that represents LGBTQ plus pride and refuge. Don't forget the part where one of the architects proposed at the project site. That too, I smiled, twisting the wedding band on my finger. We'd gotten married 2 years ago, in a ceremony held in the Harrison Center's main hall, surrounded by friends, family, and the community we'd helped serve. Our careers had flourished. We designed 3 more LGBTQ plus community centers across the West Coast, each one building on the foundation we'd established in Seattle. We'd been featured in architectural journals, won several awards, and most importantly, heard countless stories from people whose lives had been touched by the spaces we'd created. But the best part, always, was that we did it together. What are you thinking about? Ethan asked, pressing a kiss to my temple. Just how far we've come, how different life is from what I imagined it would be. Better. Infinitely better. He turned me to face him, his eyes, still that striking gray blue that made my heart race, filled with love and warmth. No regrets. I thought about the Daniel I used to be, guarded, competitive, afraid of vulnerability. Then I thought about who I'd become, still dedicated and passionate about my work, but also open, connected, part of something bigger than myself. Not a single one, I said, you. Only that we wasted 2 years being rivals when we could have been doing this. He gestured between us, building a life together. We got here eventually, that's what matters. We did, he kissed me softly, and we have so much more to build, more projects, more adventures, more life, maybe even. Even what? I've been thinking about adoption, about expanding our family, but only if you want. I interrupted, my heart suddenly full to bursting. I really want that. His smile was incandescent. Yeah. Yeah, let's build that too, together. Because that was what we did now. We built things together, buildings and careers, and a life full of love and meaning and purpose. We took the rivalry that had once defined us and transformed it into the most beautiful partnership I could have imagined. The man I was meant to hate had become the man I loved most in the world. And it all started with a kiss that changed everything.